So Alatengheili has pulled out of his fight against Victor Hugo, and in stepping in on short notice is going to be Pedro Falcao. Pedro Falcao, I feel like it's probably a pretty good opportunity for him because although he is from Brazil and does train at Nova Unal, if you look at his Instagram, he has been training at a local boxing gym in Las Vegas recently. So I guess he was just in Vegas and he was ready for the opportunity. So pretty good for him, taking the fight on 4 days' notice. Of course, gets the UFC contract, and he probably will be quite happy to get a UFC contract because he didn't get one when he fought on the Contender Series a couple of years ago. Just to give my pick out there right now, I am going to pick Victor Hugo to win this matchup. I actually think that Victor Hugo might be better nearly everywhere in the pure grappling and might be competitive, but I think that Victor Hugo's is still a very good grappler as it is. And kind of oppositely to the fight against Alatengheili, where I thought that Victor Hugo would be better off to keep the fight on the ground and go for takedowns, I think against Pedro Falcao, Victor Hugo will find most of his success on the feet. I did watch a few of Pedro Falcao's fights, most notably, of course, his more recent ones, as he has been a very inactive fighter. I watched his Contender Series fight, and I watched his most recent fight. His other fights were a long time ago, and there's not really much you can tell from them as they were just so long ago, and he took a massive break of about 2 years. He had one boxing fight, which was interesting, but aside from that, Falcao's not really been doing much. And in his two last most recent fights, he's fought differently. In his first fight against this guy called James Barnes, who was nearly 40 years old on the Contender Series, which was interesting, he did a lot of striking, and his striking looked really, really bad. Like, man, it was sloppy, and he was leaving himself super open. I didn't think he looked good on the feet whatsoever against James Barnes, but he did ultimately get it done with the grappling and the wrestling. And then against Leonardo Morales, he doesn't do any striking whatsoever. As soon as the fight starts, he shoots for a takedown after faking a glove touch, which is a bit of a scummy move, to be honest. But anyway, shoots for a takedown, gets it in the first round, and then dominates on top with his grappling. But then in the second round, this opponent, Leonardo Morales, kind of expects the takedowns, and all of a sudden, he's struggling to get the takedowns against Morales. Of course, he does eventually get him down more than once in that second round. But Morales was able to defend those takedowns, and Victor Hugo probably has better takedowns than this guy called Leonardo Morales, but it'll be hard to tell until we really get into the fight, as Victor Hugo is a guy that does welcome the grappling, and there's not a lot of tape on Victor Hugo, like, at all, because I was struggling to find tape on this guy for the Contender Series, really, really struggling to find it. But from what I've seen from Falcao in his most recent fight, there was like 15 seconds that the fight wasn't on the feet, or Falcao wasn't shooting for takedowns. So I'm going to assume in this one he's just going to be spamming takedowns over and over and over again. But except on this one, I think that Hugo's striking is going to be good enough to box up Falcao on the feet, just beat him up on the feet, to be honest with you. And even then, at the start of the second round, Morales expected the takedown and just timed a knee. And he caught Falcao a couple times with knees because he expected the takedown as soon as the round started and just spammed a couple knees. And I think he might have rocked Falcao a little bit. So maybe Hugo could think of something similar to that. But in the pure grappling, of course, Falcao, he's dominant on top. I thought his ground and pound, I thought he had a very good opportunity to win that fight by ground and pound in the second round because Barnes just completely like covered up like this. And the ground and pound from Falcao looked really weak. Like, he was just kind of, like, sloppy. If you watch that fight in the second round, there's a moment where Barnes just covers up and almost accepts defeat. And then Falcao just stops his ground and pound and goes for an arm triangle choke. I feel like if he had stronger ground and pound and just better technique with his ground and pound, he probably could have finished the fight there and would probably be in the UFC right now. But yeah, from what I've seen from Falcao, I don't think his striking's very good. Even then, although his striking looked better against Morales, even though the fight really wasn't on the feet for very long at all, it was just boxing to set up takedown attempts. It looked better. The chin was still up in the air as he was throwing his strikes, though. Like, I just don't think this guy's a very good striker at all. I don't think Hugo's the best striker at all either, even though his nickname is Victor Striker. I think that he's better at striking. He's going to hit Falcao. Falcao is very hittable as a fighter. And on the ground, Falcao's a dominant grappler, but his ground and pound doesn't look super strong from what I was able to see. His grappling looks dominant, but I think Hugo's a decent grappler in his own right. I'm just going to see if there are actually any... If there's actually any odds at all. So give me 1 second to pull up fightodds.io here. Just to have a look. I don't think there is. There are. Okay, Victor Hugo is -190 and Pedro Falcao is +165. I like Hugo at -190, and this is short notice for Falcao. He doesn't really look that great, I'll be honest. I'm going to pick Victor Hugo by KO, but Falcao could make this really annoying and just spam takedowns over and over and over again. I'm going to pick Hugo. I'm picking Hugo by KO. Falcao 16-3. I'm not sold on the record, to be honest. I mean, Hugo's record is a little bit sketchy too. Like, more recently, he's fought good guys, but if you really look through it, it's questionable. I think Hugo gets it done, though. He's going to be the one that also doesn't mind the fight on the ground. Falcao's going to be desperate to get the fight down to the ground. So I think that Hugo's just going to box him up on the feet. I think he's going to knock him out. So, yeah, opposite style matchup, though, for Hugo. I feel like against Alatengheili, he would have been the one shooting for the takedowns. But against Falcao, he's going to be defending takedowns and wanting the fight on the feet, as Falcao's not a good striker. So let me know what you think of the fight in the comments below. Do you think Falcao gets it done? Do you think Hugo gets it done? I'm interested to see. I do kind of think that short notice fights do make cards a lot more interesting. But I like Hugo on this one. I like the guy with the full camp. So yeah, give me Hugo. I'll see you guys in the next one, which should be a UFC 300 early prediction video, which will be pretty fun to make.